done me to evils, and my people have done me so wrong. They've forsaken me the fount of living water, heal our systems that won't last long. My people have done me to evils, and my people have done me so
Good evening. My name is Edward Palmore, and my chief objective is to deal with the multifaceted issue which has been popularized under the rubric of mass incarceration. The quintessential question is, why am I doing this social media presentation? I spent 18 and a half years in the Georgia Department of Corrections, and during that time, 6,679 days. I read over 2,000 books, and I wrote a number of manuscripts, plays, poems, songs, which I plan to publish. But in the 18 and a half years, I saw the phenomenal protraction of the penal system. Only through the grace of God did I make 18 and a half years. The first 18 and a half minutes were traumatic enough. Yet I knew that once I was no longer in prison, behind bars and razor wire, that I would have a mission in life. There's a great deal that is evil in the system. I knew within 18 and a half minutes that if I ever walked out of prison, I would be part of that great debate. And that the 18 and a half years that I did would not have been done in vain. This prison industrial complex, which we call mass incarceration, wasn't done in a corner. It wasn't done in a vacuum. It was crafted and executed over several decades when this society decided that one set of citizens were expendable and another set of citizens were invaluable. This thing wasn't done in a corner. The only way to change a situation is to expose it to the sunlight. Now, the issue of mass incarceration focuses on three distinct elements: justice reform, prison reform, and reentry. Justice reform deals with whether or not the system manages inmates fairly and efficiently during the time which they are under police custody. Is the inmate provided with quality health care? Is he free from physical or sexual abuse? Is he given time for recreation? Is he fed? Reentry is whether a person upon release can find a home, can find a job, can expunge his or her prison record, criminal record. Can the person start all over again in society and become a full-fledged member of society with all the rights that is entailed in full citizenry? Now, before I went to prison, I had already served as a United States Army officer, and I had earned a doctorate in counseling psychology from the School of Education at Boston University. There was nothing to do in prison, so I wrote continually. I knew that if I did not write the events which were happening as I was seeing and experiencing them, that they would be lost forever to my psyche. I was in a place where I saw hundreds of personalities, hundreds of interactions daily. Once I saw this kid who was about 19 years old. He was screwing himself up royally, to the point where he was afraid to leave the residential unit, and likewise he was afraid to remain in the residential unit. He was afraid of leaving the unit because he owed some gangbangers. They had fronted him some dope, and they had expected to reap a profit. The young boy couldn't confront these thugs because he was getting high on his own supply. Moreover, he was afraid of staying in the unit because he dissed a few of the fellas that were there who threatened to split his wig. And knowing his vulnerability, a few old vets determined to have him put on his drawers backwards. I watched this young boy move frantically about top range, wondering what was going to happen next in his life. I sat in the day room and wrote these lines and banged out a rhythm on the steel table that was in front of me. And the lines went something like this. I can't do my time like this. I can't live my life like that. Get stuck in the joint with a shank. Wet up in the streets with a gap. I can't do my time like this. And I can't live my life like that. Get stuck in the joint with a shank. Wet up in the street with a gap. The tune was catchy. Guys around me were singing it as they saw me transverse the compound. But this is one of the first tunes that I wrote among many, and many times during our presentation I'll be sharing those tunes and those ideas with you. Why would I do a social media presentation on mass incarceration? One reason is because I can be a social reformer who has been in the belly of the beast. Most scholars do a good job at analyzing and synthesizing information from the outside, but they do not have a real sense of what it means to be sitting in that prison day in and day out, and what it is to know that you might not go home or see people who will be there and be carried out with a tag on their toe. They can only imagine what prison is about. I know prison because I did time there. Why would I do a social media presentation on mass incarceration? Because I know that the issue is multivariate and pervades every aspect of human life. There's the issue of marginalization. There's the issue of justice reform and the process of how our rights are being eroded each and every day. Jesus once said, "If they do these things in a green tree, what shall be done in the dry?" Lastly, I wanted to deal with the issue of reentry. Like all release justice involved prisoners, ex-prisoners in Georgia, and perhaps elsewhere, I had to parole out of the system. And I was escorted to a Greyhound bus with $25 loaded on a debit card issued by the sovereign state of Georgia. I had the clothes on my back, and I had 3 net bags full of manuscripts, documents, and books that I had collected and written while I was in prison. I would go on to a reentry house in Macon, Georgia. Some of what we are doing on videos I intend to publish as a reentry package for prisoners around the United States. There will be an audio-visual presentation as well as a book. The book is a compilation of things which I have written over the years. The book is titled, From a Prisoner's Point of View, Supplemental Readings for a Criminal Justice Curriculum. This idea emanated from the work that I did while lecturing at Mercer University and Middle Georgia State University, when I came in to visit with students and give them an idea of what it was like to be in prison. In prison, one has plenty of time to read. One just has a lack of material to read. Reentry is a process which begins when an individual enters prison, and it does not begin when he leaves prison. Most of the time that people spend, they're under the illusion that things have remained the same during the 10, 15, 20, and 30 years that they spent behind bars. The next quintessential question is, how do I plan to present these issues which are so vital and so relevant? The issues which are presented here have been researched by me. The project is manifold, and I have done this project for four different reasons. I wrote the content so that the message would not be frivolous. These are serious topics, and perhaps they will assist students who are studying in a college or liberal arts program or in law school. One day the methodology that I utilize will be discussed in a separate video. I wrote the content so that the message would not be redundant. Any video should not be a mere repeat of a previous video or of some video that some other person has done. I wrote the content so that the message will not be desultory. Preparation allows me to remain on topic and not venture into something that is not related to the topic. I wrote the content so that the message will not be irrelevant. Essentially, the aim is that policymakers, students, and justice-involved persons can take these videos and use them in their studies, in crafting policies, or in developing a schematic by which to live their daily lives. The major issue in prison life today is sex, gangs, and drugs. These are vital concerns and demand a great deal of individual attention. Yet there are other issues germane and tangential to mass incarceration, which affect all of us. Justice in this country is predicated upon the amount of justice we can afford. It is almost like buying toilet tissue. The brand we buy at Kroger is probably preferable to the brand that we might pick up at the Dollar Tree, even though they accomplish roughly the same purpose. A discussion of sex, gangs, and drugs deserve intense study, because we will be discussing in the next calendar year. Hopefully the language incorporated in these videos will be scholarly. However, there will be times when I would allude to discussions and quotes by people who do not sound like Harvard professors. The language might be a bit coarse and provocative at times. The imagery might also be slightly off color. But sometimes the only way to discuss a sordid event is by using the language of the characters involved. There will be times when I would read poems, and when there will be music presented. Music which is not in the public domain, which more than likely might be pieces which I have written in prison. I plan to upload videos every week. I also plan to provide giveaways which can be linked. The first year is experimental. Next year I hope to present more music and drama. A serious discussion can be presented in a multiplicity of ways. I thank you for your attention, and I hope that you will be with us for our next video.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you for watching this video, Remove This Reproach. I'd like for you to press the like button, make a comment, subscribe, and ring the bell. In the future, we'll have a giveaway for you. We already have one for the new year, and we will be announcing it and putting it in the link. Thank you very much.